The scribes, the ready boys, the boys who went to school, the boys who like to read.
Okay. And
Which
right.
is the first commandment of all?
Ooh. And this is Mark 12, and we're starting in verse 28.
Hmm.
28.
What is the first commandment of all?
To love your God with all your heart and with all your soul, with all your mind.
Yeah.
I mean, what is the first commandment in Exodus? That's a different story. I have to.
What do you think the scribes would be referring to?
They would be referring to Exodus with the 10 commandments, but we're going to see how Jesus breaks it down to 2 commandments,
Oh,
and you'll see it still includes everything the way he does it because
I'm
Jesus.
expecting a clever rebuke.
Clever rebuke, yes. So here it is from Exodus. This is the first one. I am the Lord your God. You are who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me.
There's
So
no other. So it's understanding the facts. And I think in reality, and I would put it this way, right?
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Because, like, there's never really other gods exist, but
Right, right.
this one, God, in this case with a capital G,
Yes. Yes. Oh Lord.
is the real one.
Right. That's the one. Yes. Super duper. So
What do they say? This is 28.
28.
Then one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, perceiving that he had answered them well,
Mm,
asked him. So they were watching the Sadducees
you were watching the Sadducees in the last episode we did with the where they were asking.
about the resurrection,
Yes, and the marriage and all that. Yes. So he liked the way he answered.
perceiving.
Yeah, perceiving that he had answered them well. So he's like, okay, let me get my question in.
Right. Which of the first commandment of all? Which is the first commandment of all? Jesus answered him, the first of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. This is the first commandment. And the second, like it, is this: You shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. Right, because if you do those two things, you never even get to the rest of the list.
Right. As if you're right. You cover your whole list,
Right.
right? Because if you're loving your neighbor, you're not stealing or
Like, unless your neighbor is a zombie from a movie and he no longer has bodily control over himself, like, I don't know what you're doing, right?
to
So the scribe said to himself, or to everybody, to him,
Jesus, right? Yeah.
he said, Well said, teacher, you have spoken the truth, for there is one God, and there is no other but He. And to love Him with all the heart, with all the understanding, with all the soul, and with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself, is more than all the whole burnt offerings and sacrifices. Now, when Jesus saw that he answered wisely, he said to him, You are not far from the kingdom of God. But after that, no one dared to question him.
Wow. What was
So
another?
maybe the reedy boys are like, oh, what are they scared of?
Because he really knows how to answer people, right?
Right.
And that was so, I mean, in verse 34, he saw that he answered wisely, You are not far from the kingdom of God.
Well, it seems to be the
Hmm.
first question, which is not like pointed or has any shapes to it.
Yeah, yes, yeah. He
And
just
it's simply
genuinely
like,
was impressed about the other answer, so he wanted to get his question, but it wasn't like a trick or anything.
Right. He was like, "What's this about?"
And then he,
But yeah, I mean, he questioned it. He got his answer, and I like his response, which is like, "You are not far from the kingdom of God,"
yeah. And
which is
Jesus, like,
like you are
right.
on the precipice of asking the right questions.
And he even liked, I mean, Jesus liked his answer, right? Like they had a good exchange
Right.
as opposed, so, and respect on both sides, right?
But then after, right, it's like they got their pointed questions out of the way, and it's like, well, what is this about? And then that's the kind of thing. And then you get people. If I heard that response, right, it's like, okay, well, I would want to live that way. This probably makes a lot of sense.
Right,
And then
right.
they're like, okay, well, he's answered 3 questions in a row. Maybe we should stop.
Trying to trick him, right? If
Because
you're
yeah, they were like, no one dared to question him afterwards.
right.
Those are your 2 commandments. Follow them.
Yes, well, that
You get
is,
10 of them, but you only gotta follow 2.
but they're covered. They are covered.